Okay guys, we're going to talk about camera settings, and I want to start by just showing some examples of different events that we have. And I just want to illustrate, for example, what some good photos look like. And like this is a gold backdrop, and this gentleman's skin is like, it's very complementary to the backdrop itself, and we want to capture a rich photo. We want to make sure the colors are vibrant and rich. That's why we have to start talking a little bit about camera settings and some general best practices and principles. We're really dealing with maybe 3 settings. We're going to be dealing with something called Aperture, ISO, and another thing called white balance. So let's talk about the camera settings. From the drop-down menu, we go to camera settings. Great. This brings you to this screen right here. We're going to be dealing with, right now, we're going to be talking about ISO and aperture for the most part. Why? Because shutter speed, this is always going to be 1/160 for every event. You really don't have to worry about this setting. And what I want to say is that ISO is your brightness handle. It gets you into the ballpark. It's your big lever, meaning this setting is your range for ISO is gonna be 100 for really bright outdoor days where you're doing events in the sun, and up to 800 when you're maybe at a night venue or outside at night or it's dark. Okay, so your range for ISO is gonna be 100 for sunny days and 800 for outdoor night. Aperture is gonna be your fine-tuning scope. You don't have to deal with this as much, so your range is gonna be smaller. Your range is gonna go from 8 to, according to Albert, 16. So basically, what am I saying? ISO gets you into the ballpark of brightness, okay, 100 to 800. And aperture is your fine tuning, okay? In this case, we're in an indoor office environment with Alex in the forefront. Let's take a test photo of Alex right now just to see where these settings are. Let's imagine that ISO is 100. We're just gonna deal with that right now. So as you can see, with the ISO of 100, this photo is so dark, we can barely see Alex. This would not pass muster at all. So let's bring this ISO, which was 100 for, 100 up to 400. Take another test photo and see what the difference is. So we brought it up to 400 and it's getting brighter, but I don't think it's quite good enough. So let's go to 800 in this case. So this is a lot brighter. And soon we're going to be talking about how to adjust the tone because we have a yellow background here. But this is good brightness. Now we have to change the white balance. The thing about white balance is when you're dealing with a color background, you're going to want to change this, okay? Now, auto is going to be your default. Auto is good for black and white backgrounds, but it's not going to do well for colorful backgrounds like the gold in our gallery or this yellow one where Alex is sitting down. So here's just a tip. For colors, we're actually gonna stick to flash for white balance. So our ISO is good, our aperture is good, our shutter speed is constant. Let's do a flash photo for the white balance. And that's already that already pops a lot better with the yellow background, okay? And let's keep it there for now. Like I said, just to review, ISO is great for getting you to your ballpark of brightness. Aperture is going to be good for fine-tuning your brightness. And whether you have a white or black or colorful backdrop, you're either going to use auto for blacks and whites or flash for colored backgrounds like the gold or this yellow one in this case. Thank you, Alex. So I want to go over some photo quality standard concerns and aspects of this. Basically, let's go over some examples and find the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we have a page right here in our Selfie Booth Notion site. This might be a resource that you can look back at. As you can see, these are some of the standards that we have for photo quality. Obviously, we are a 5-star company, so we want to be able to produce and generate some eye-popping and captivating photos for people during their celebratory context. And so these are some of the good examples, let's call them. As you can see, white backdrop, very crisp, very clean, no shadows, the complementary skin of their tone. It comes out well. This prop usually outshines, it reflects back a lot. So the fact that it isn't, good stuff. This is an example of the glam black and white. We were going over some of the beauty filter stuff. This is that. This is what applies here. This is kind of how it looks like. It's supposed to look good, and it helps people not show up with as much blemishes. Sequin background, skin tone looks good. Background looks kind of flashy. Everything is good, sharp and defined. The gold backdrop, I might have made an example of that earlier. As we can see, still shiny. It's all good. So I have a couple of previews here that we're going to go over. So of first concern is that the backdrop here is a marble. It looks like marble, like granite. And here you can see that this photo is going to fall into the good category. Good, not excellent, not bad, but it's going to fall in the good category for a couple of reasons. One, the subjects are sharp and defined. Additionally, although these ladies here have a lighter skin tone, they are not overexposed. They're on the edge of maybe being overexposed. As you can see, the shininess here on their, bridge of their nose, or maybe right here on the foreheads. But right here, this is good. The skin tone, not overexposed, not dark, and the backdrop looks sharp. So that falls good. So the thing to note about this particular example is that this is a decent photo, but it can be a little brighter. If photos have a design like in this corner, you don't want the subjects to be covering this, which basically means you have to tilt the camera angle using the manual tilting camera mechanism on the unit itself. You'll twist that and you'll help people get lined up and stuff, so that way their design isn't blocked. So first example of maybe bad example, what you'll notice here is there's a couple things going on. These guys are overexposed, which means the light is bouncing too harshly off of them. So they look super white and washed out. This happens for a couple of reasons. The primary reason is because they're actually closer to the camera than they should be. Obviously, they're trying to fit it in the frame together, but you should notice that these guys are overexposed. So what we're doing here is we're developing an eye. I want you guys to develop an eye for what is good and what isn't. One way you notice that these guys are too close, but the camera settings might be good, is that the guy in the back actually comes out really well. It just happens to be the case that there's a lot of people soaking up a lot of light and it's bouncing off them and it looks washed out. So basically it's too close and too bright, as you can see. This photo, very clearly you can tell that this is not up to mustard. This does not pass. Why does it not pass? It is too dark. This should be brightened up more. And because it's so dark, that this should be handled initially the ISO setting, because the ISO is the heavier lever for brightness. This probably is a little closer to 100 than it is to 800, meaning you need it a little closer to 800 so it can be a little bright. The camera self-focuses on the subject, so the sharpness is good, but as you can see, it is too dark. So some ISO adjustment here would actually be a really great idea, so it doesn't come out this poorly. Okay, let me expand this just so I can, show you. So what is wrong here? The settings actually are good, but we have a major problem. The major problem is actually less technical and just more physical. Look at this. Look here on the right. There's a gap here. What does this mean? It means that this is messy. This looks not good because the camera is capturing outside of the backdrop and it just captures the back. So this is open space and there's some wall in the back or some wood here and maybe it's the corner of the wall. Not good. Cannot have that. And look how it's subtle. So we pulled this one from an event where the settings were good, all the photos look good, but catastrophe strikes even in a little or more subtle way, which is, and I don't mean to be too dramatic, but this actually ruins the quality of our offering. Do not have gaps in the back right here like this. Even if your settings are good, you can get actually too excited, be like, oh my God, everyone's coming out really well. Problem is, We have gaps here, and that ruins the entire offering or the point of it. What we have here is that in this case, and you might have to be head on a swivel here, because the location of this backdrop wasn't ideal to choose. As you can see, the background should be shaded, ideally, but the problem is there is lighting in the background that disrupts things, and this is not a desired effect. It needs to be clean, which means ideally the backdrop is in a shaded area, so that way this does not happen. Okay, so less settings on there. Okay, in this case we have a bad photo because no one should block frame a little better and make sure that, you know, they're not blocking the design if there ever is one, especially on black ones. Okay, in this photo we have a marble background, and these guys are overexposed because maybe they have a little bit lighter skin going on. It's overexposed. You can see the shininess here. This shouldn't be happening. They're a little too bright, so overexposed. When I say overexposed, you got to think to yourself, look, ISO is a little too high. You know, it's too bright. It's too bright, so we might lower the ISO just a tiny bit, so that way we can avoid this shininess. This shininess is actually killer, you know, and there is some variation on skin tones and people that come out brighter than others, but really you should try to avoid people coming out with this sort of shininess on their face or on their skin or elbows. Next. Gold backdrop. We start going into the subtleties of what white balance is. And in this case, this is the gold background. If you remember, I made an example of this. The gold backdrop should look a little bit more like this, or like this, you know, with this lady in the back here. This does not look like, this shouldn't be this, you know, that's a problem. Like, and the thing is that the problem is that the white balance here that was used is on auto, where it really needs to be flash. Yeah, because flash is for colors. So you want to avoid this problem. So for colors or a gold, you want your white balance to be on flash. And if it's going to be on, you know, white like this, white and black, or white or black, your white balance is really going to be auto or manual. For the most part, we'll go with auto. Okay, next photo. Again, similar problem. Marble background, but look at the subject. Overexposed. It's too bright. She might be a little close. She might be a little close to the frame. Maybe the booth is not distanced properly, or maybe she just got too close or not against the backdrop enough. But either way, let's imagine that the settings are a little too high on the brightness, meaning the ISO maybe needs to be lowered a little bit, or the aperture needs to be adjusted. And remember, ISO is the big lever, aperture is the smaller lever. So this is a little overexposed. This is too bright. Okay, another gold backdrop situation. Just notice again, the settings look good. Maybe this is from that same event that I was showing you earlier, the tragedy, which is this gap right here. Your settings can be good, but if this happens, this ruins the event. You need to be on this. You need to be aware to not have this error happen, you know, because it'll sneak up on you and it ruins the whole thing. Bad. Next. So in this case, I want you to remember that the backdrop here and here are actually the same, but look at what's happening. This is turning yellowy and it's reflecting the light of the color of this woman's dress. This marble background needs to look like this, you know what I'm saying? Or like this. But it's doing this because the white balance is on flash instead of auto or manual. So this is a white balance issue. Remember, for white and black backdrops, you want your white balance to be on auto or manual. And for colors, it has to be flash. Don't forget. What's wrong with this? It's too bright. Like I said, this prop is reflecting back the light because it's too overexposed. And this lady's skin is obviously too washed out because the light is overwhelming. The settings are too sensitive to light right now. So what do? you lower ISO or increase the aperture a bit, you know, that's how you would solve this. You know, and it wouldn't take that much dramatic change, you know. But this is too overexposed. I'd probably make the aperture a little higher. So this is a good photo. Subject is well defined. There are no gaps in the background. The white balance matches the color, so that's going to be flash, presumably, what he's using. And additionally, the gold backdrop looks rich. His skin tone looks like, you know, even though, you know, it contrasts with the background, you can still see the tones come out very well on this gentleman's skin. So it's all good there. This comes out very good, you know. Again, the marble background is the white balance is set on auto or manual, and his skin looks good. It's not overexposed. There's no shadows. He's not shining anywhere, so that he probably nailed it right in there. It's also another example of a good photo in white. No shadows. Subjects are defined, not overexposed, and the white balance is presumably set on auto or manual because it's a white background, not a color background. Last example, this is too dark, okay? This is a white backdrop, and look how it contrasts with this. It looks gray when it's white. This will happen a lot. This is actually something you gotta pay attention to. So you gotta change the ISO. This ISO should be maybe a little higher, and the aperture should be changed a little bit. Presumably smaller number, so it can be a little brighter on the aperture there. White balance is going to be on auto again because white and black, so this needs to be a little lighter. So we want you to train your eye for some of these examples, right? Just to review, too dark, this is a good example, this is a good example, this is good, no flaws. Overexposed, white balance is off. White balance here needs to be changed to auto or manual. Gold gap settings are good, problem. Overexposed, either too close or ISO setting too high, maybe aperture number a little too low. Gold white balance issue needs to be changed to flash, not auto or manual, so it can pick up the color. Overexposed, the design is being blocked, so angle the camera better. The shading of the location, you need to make sure you get set up somewhere where you're either all shaded, ideally. That's the problem here. Sometimes you can't help it because the sun comes up and down, but that's okay. Gold settings are good, subjects are okay. Gap, fatal flaw, fail. Dark, too dark. Overexposed, these guys need to either back up or the settings are a little too bright. For the most part, it could be the distance. Lastly, too dark, a little bit dark. This could brighter. This photo could be brighter, and this is an okay photo because they're not overexposed and the colors are still okay. And that's all. Those are some initial considerations on good versus bad. Remember, these photos need to look nice, guys. Needs to look good. I encourage you to go to the Notion knowledge base and go to the photo quality standards, so you can go on this right here at camera exposure settings if you need something a little more legible for you instead of just the video resource. You'll see some common mistakes here, you know, and you can sort of examine some of the things that we went over and what the settings themselves might be based on what we were seeing earlier. And yeah, that is all I have to share for now.